In this session, we'll learn how to work with invoice matching rules. In transportation management, you create invoice matching rules to determine which common attribute values must match between the shipment and the invoice records before they can be considered for payment. In our demonstration, we'll look at invoice matching rules. These rules allow you to determine how we match service providers' invoices to our shipment as part of the payment and settlement flow. To begin our demonstration, let's navigate into our application. To access the setup, we'll first go into the Financials group, then to Payment Rule Management, then Matching Rule. Here I'll search for some of the rules we have in our system, and we'll go into an example of our first one. So this is the Matching Rule UI for creating the rules. The rule is used for going in and defining what are the conditions that are used for matching a service provider's invoice into a shipment. So once your invoices have been integrated into OTM, this rule will then determine what elements need to match for that invoice to the shipments in the system before we can consider it matched and then consider for payment. So your matching rule has a unique ID, which can be any alphanumeric combination you want. Optionally, you can also have a descriptive name if you'd like. And then we can also determine details such as what is the match rule type 2, in this case, an invoice. You can also determine what would be the matching rule outcome, in this case, matching to a shipment. They can also be as granular to specify, are these rules centric around the source of the shipment or to the destination of the shipment? You can also determine, would this rule be used for single standard invoices or a grouping or consolidation, or possibly both. The Find Shipment type determines what is the perspective of the shipment. Is it buy, which means we are purchasing outside shipment movement, or is it sell, where we're actually the shipper and we're selling our shipping services to another party, or considered for both? Then we determine what level of criteria do we need to match between the freight carrier or the service provider's ID and our shipment. So the exact match means that both the alias qualifiers must be identical between the supplier's invoice and our shipment. Or if you choose the option for Match Indian List, then you can access your lookup codes to say if the invoice ID matches any of those in our defined list, then we would consider it a match. You also have the ability to say what other criteria must match by using reference numbers. So between the invoice and the shipment, this example uses a common purchase order. So the PO number must be identical between the invoice and our shipment. As an example of other types of qualifiers you could use, depending on the mode of transportation, maybe it would be something like an air bill number, or a vessel voyage ID. It could be things like driver's assignment, start time, end time, fuel that's been consumed, odometer readings, and so on. If you have multiple items in your list, you can also specify must all of them match, which then you would choose the match all. Or if you only want to enforce that at least one of the items in the list matches, you can say match one or more. Once you create your match rule, we then need to link it to what's called a match rule profile so that we can link it to the carrier. So if we take a look at an example of the profile, that's also defined within the same grouping. If we go to match rule profile, here we have an example of a match rule, which is just a unique ID that groups together one or more matching rules. So in this case, we can see here's the match rule that we just looked at. In this case, it only contains one match rule, but you could potentially have multiple match rules defined in the list and then use the sequence number to determine the priority. That way, it enables you to be a little bit more broad in how the conditions are evaluated. For example, if the first matching rule is not applicable, it could advance to the next one, and to the next one, and so on. Once you define your matching rule profiles, the last thing that needs to happen is link that to a freight carrier. So the freight carriers are defined under the contract and rate management section, and then under service provider. Again, we'll look at an existing carrier for our example. So in this demo, we'll look at C.H. Robinson. If we go into the freight carrier's definition, which we viewed before, now we can go down to the settlement section, and under the match rule profile field, this is where you would access your list of profiles, make your selection, and then you would link that to your freight carrier by now saving and updating your changes. Now, any invoices linked to this freight carrier will be conditionally evaluated based off of the matching criteria in our rule between their invoices and our shipments. Let's now go back to our topic. To review, OTM's invoice matching rules enforce your business requirements for matching service provider invoices to shipments created within OTM. These rules are flexible to accommodate multiple requirements, and they can also be configured to automatically match invoices to shipments. I hope you enjoyed the demonstration, and thanks for watching.